Friends, colleagues, honoured guests, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the inaugural lecture of Professor George Agyekum-Mensah. I'm Deborah Johnston and I'm the Deputy Vice-Chancellor here at London South Bank. Before I introduce the lecture, I will say what I always say when I speak to a large group of people. I do have a stammer, I will get stuck on words, it will all be okay. Now, before I formally introduce Professor Agyekum-Mensah, a little bit about the nature of an inaugural lecture, because for some of you it might be your first time. So, an inaugural lecture is the new professor's first opportunity to formally present their contribution to the discipline, talk about the journey that they're on, and excite us with their future plans. It's a moment of celebration for the schools where the professor is based, and in this case it's the School of Built Environment and Architecture. A moment to celebrate, a moment for staff to come together, for students, for alumni, and for those wider collaborators. And it's a moment for us as a university to showcase to our wider academic community and the general public the expertise, the contribution of our professorial faculty. So, an inaugural lecture is a significant thing, it's a milestone, and so it's entirely appropriate that we meet here in person, but then you know what I'm going to say, I've got to give you that introduction to an in-person event. So, please switch the volume off your mobile phone. Do be tweeting, do be blogging, that's perfectly fine, but please switch off the sound. Keep in mind we are recording this evening, so just keep that in mind. The toilets are signposted right outside, and we have no plans for a fire alarm test. So if the alarm does go off, please make your way in an orderly fashion following the fire alarm signs. So that bit's done. Now, George will be well known to many of you, and I know he's joined tonight by special guests. Particularly his lovely wife, Lordina, his children, Prince Daniel, Elrod and Eleora, and his brother, Augustine. So shall we give them a round of applause to welcome them? And we have a range of other special guests. So if I miss anybody out, George will tell me off afterwards, so my apologies now. But we have a range of people who have come from across George's academic and professional life. So we have, in random order, Andy Stanley, the chair of CIOB London, Professor Phil Cox, former line manager who was head of school in the University of Greenwich, Bola Abisogun, OBE, founder and chairman of Diversity Surveyors and chair of CPS Industry Advisory Board, Jama Jama, project director for Mace Consult, and Professor Amarit Sagu, head of Built Environment, NTU. So again, round of applause. Thank you for coming this evening. And it's lovely to see this feature of the inaugural lecture in action, isn't it? Re-establishing and renewing our collaborations. So with such an audience, it's important that I give Professor Agyekum-Mensah an appropriate introduction. So at the risk of causing him some embarrassment, I will share a little about George. George is Professor of Sustainable Project and Cost Management and the Head of Division for Construction, Property and Surveying at London South Bank University. His field of expertise is in sustainable built environment, mainly focusing on sustainable project delivery and management, and he says he wants a revolution to the current management of projects. So his journey, he gained his BSc degree in quantity surveying and construction in Ghana in 1996 in Takoradi Technical University and Unique Academy UK. He pursued an MSc in Construction Project Management at Napier University, Edinburgh in 2007, And he later moved to Nottingham Trent University as a lecturer, and there he gained a postgraduate diploma in research practice and philosophy in 2012, and the biggie, the important one, his PhD in construction and project management with a thesis entitled An Innovative Total Planning and Control System, and that was in 2013. After that, he moved on to become a senior lecturer in Coventry University, and later in 2015, while he was there, he completed a PG Cert in academic practice in higher education. In 2019, he moved on to be associate professor in the University of Greenwich, and then, the important event for us, in May 2022, he came to LSBU as professor and as head of division. There are a range of other professional recognitions and qualifications that I haven't mentioned yet. He is a fellow of the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors, a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Building, a fellow of the Association for Project Management, a fellow of the Chartered Management Institute, and a senior fellow of the Higher Education Academy. Professor Agyekum-Mensah has many high-quality publications, 46 papers, including 4 book chapters, and he's been a reviewer for a range of notable journals. The list was so long, I had to say to him, George, pick 3. So these are the 3 that he picked. The ASCE Journal of Management in Engineering, the International Journal of Construction Management, and the International Journal of Manufacturing Technology and Management. He's led and managed the organisation of academic conferences and seminars, and he's been keynote speaker and presenter for other renowned conferences and industry seminars. He was recently the keynote speaker for Reinforced Efficiency for Carbon Reduction and Cost Savings Industry Seminar UK. George has attracted about £500,000 research funding, KTPs, enterprise and consultancy. The most recent projects come from the Oman Tender Board, the British Association of Reinforcement and the British Council. He was involved in the consortium for the £10 million research bid for Air Q3 NERC. He's also attracted over £300,000 for industry-sponsored PhD studies, and we all know how vital this is. He currently has He currently has PhD research sponsored by Canary Wharf Group, British Rail, and Mott MacDonald's. So he has supervised 12 PhD students and is currently supervising another 5 PhD students. And over the years, he's examined more than 100 postgraduate theses and dissertations, including master's theses and PhDs. He's taught widely across the undergraduate, master's and PhD spectrum and has a range of significant broader contribution. He's a senior member of both CIOB and RICS, of the Global Education Accreditation Board, and this is fundamental in setting that high quality education and professional standard so that it's achieved both within the UK and internationally. He's an external board member for the Malta College of Arts, Science and Technology University, an external member for the Oman Tender Board, Oman Council, a counsellor, assessor, mentor and partnership lead for the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors. He is a founder for the Contemporary Construction Conference, a founder and chair for the Built Environment Open Forum. He's been an external examiner in a range of institutions, including Birmingham City University, Ulster University, Sheffield Hallam University, University of Bolton, University of Portsmouth and Brunel University of London. He's a governor for Warwickshire Schools. So with all that, you'll be amazed to hear he has hobbies. I believe he enjoys tennis and he achieved a black belt in Taekwondo. And he enjoys playing football and I think watching Liverpool. So we can't hold that against him, can we? With this impressive record of extensive contribution, I ask you, special guests, and colleagues, pleased to welcome Professor George Agyekum-Mensah with his inaugural lecture entitled Sustainability in the Built Environment, Myths versus Realities. George.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Can you all hear me from the back? You know, it feels very good when your deputy VC introduces you like that. It means you still have a job, isn't it? Well, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to always speak about things that you do in terms of research. I'm happy for everyone coming here. I've seen a lot of people from my student, my PhD student, my working colleagues, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. And I'm grateful for the gift of life. Without life, we couldn't do anything. So we thank God for such a wonderful occasion. All right, so I will just move on straight to what I want to share because I want to meet our time. All right, my structure of my presentation today is going to look into background, 6 areas: the background, setting the scene, myth versus realities, and I'll be talking about a research project, one of the research projects, an innovative delivery system, and an ongoing and a future work that I'm going to look at. In case I'm run out of time, please raise up your hand and tell me I'm running out of time. I will stop. We cannot start this thing without talking about what passed, isn't it? It's obvious that our King Charles. But there's one thing that caught my attention. That is the royal carriage. I don't know whether some of you saw it. 260 years old. And I'm thinking, when they first did it, what would happen? They would be thinking that it's too expensive, isn't it? But now, we will be saying 260 years down the line, it's still doing the work. So now there's resistance. There is sustainability. There's something to it. Because now they've recovered everything now. And sometimes we use the word sustainability in terms of what does that mean? And I think the royal, at that time, I know that a lot of people will be complaining, but now we are making good use of it. And it still links into exactly what I'm trying to do. And I'll come back to it later on. My academic journey started from somewhere. Like Professor Debbie said, I actually started as a practitioner. So most of you here who knows me, I'm a practitioner. So I started as a practitioner. After graduating from my MSc, getting an award on the faculty best student, I was targeted by two important people in my life saying that you could do PhD or you could do research. I said, nah, that's not for me. That is not for me at all. Not because I did well, I need to come and do PhD or do research. So they tried to convince me, they tried to talk me through. I didn't. 3 years down the line, I did a guest lecture for them again, and then I got a good feedback from students. So I decided, no, I could give it a shot. So I looked into it, and I met these 3 people too. I met the one in the middle, Professor Shumian, who actually was the chair of the interview that I go to the studentship. So I went to the interview, and I met Professor Shumian. And then Professor Shumian was instrumental to what I wanted to do. The 2 of them, Professor Christine Pasquire, who was my second supervisor, and then my director of studies, who was not able to make it today, Andrew Knight, who is NTU executive as well. So they actually brought me in. It doesn't mean that they are the only people who have seen me through the journey. In the journey, I've met a lot of mentors. I've met a lot of people. I've met a lot of colleagues who actually have prepared me in to do what I'm doing now. In my role, what do I do? I can say that in terms of professorship, there's 4 areas to what I try to do and what I try to be an aspect of it. And 4 of them is what we call management. I call it the 4 quadrant. It's called the management and leadership. And then I do curriculum and then learning, which is an important part of the things I do. Then I do professional and industrial engagement. Then research and impact. So I don't want to be in a particular part that only research that I do, but I try to do all round as academic. So that's the things I'll do. I'll focus on the research part today, but I'll briefly talk about a few things I do as well. In terms of research and curriculum, I use the approach called practice-informed theory. There's a saying that there is no practice without theory. People always think that practice, theory is the thing that you don't touch, and then practice is the tangible thing. But there's no theory there's no theory without practice. There's no practice without theory. So these two things link together. And I think my background actually links into it properly. That in case anything that we do within theory, let's bring it into practice. And then the things that is theoretized, let's also bring it into theory. Therefore, there's a lot of collaboration between practice and industry. So and that is why we could develop those ideas. And I've worked with those industries or those institutions around to develop the same concept in what I do. Recently, I was in South Africa, which was part of a research council project that we tried to do what we call Lakotela, which is an ancient Zulu word, those of you who have heard about Zulu, which means like coming together. So Lakotela, what we mean that we brought all the stakeholders together, and then we decided how to embed sustainability into curriculum. So how do we do sustainability? Because the concept of sustainability now becomes a buzzword. Everybody thinks sustainability could mean anything. People say sustainability fuel, sustainability chairs, sustainability anything. Even food, sustainability food. But what is sustainability in itself and the context that we want to embed into it? So we brought all the stakeholders together, which is academics, practitioners, students, and other stakeholders coming together to discuss how we embed sustainability into the project. And that is where the concept is practice informing theory and theory informing practice. So it goes that cycle to inform what we do as practitioners or academic. In terms of management, I've picked two main things of what I do. This is the first what I did. This is, those of you who are very young, you might not see this one. When you finish every work, they give you a testimonial. So my first job I did, which is in a management, I had a testimonial. I was a foreman in one place, which is one of the largest construction company. By then, it was 400 million project in Takoradi thermal plant. I was a foreman managing hundreds of people. So I had the opportunity to learn a lot of management skills. And then the thing about management is dynamic. The things you learn might not be transferable, but you still can know some of the things that are in there, and which is very important. That set the foundation for me to do. And since 1996, I've been doing management. That's why I said the 4 quadrants of what I do includes management and leadership. The second thing I want to talk about is when I move into senior management as well in another side of my work. Is in Scotland, I moved from a consultancy into a contractor. And when I move into Drumbo Homes, Drumbo Timber Frame, which is Drumbo Homes or other things, there are 2 things that actually happened on this project and I wanted to share. 2 things. One was that I was the youngest, I was the first black person to be a senior manager in the role, which was great. But when they come to see me, everybody comes with another question. They also ask the question, how old is he? Because they think I'm too young by then. And then they look at it. And I think the latter questions has been a question that everybody asks. And I know a lot of people here will be thinking, how old is George actually? Or how old is thinking? And it has been the latter question, but it's not about age, it's about what you could do. And then I've moved into those things going forward in terms of management. I would say management and leadership are dynamic to motivate, to influence and impact things that you learn. So in that process, as you learn those management skills, you make some mistakes, but you still get out of those things. Coming back to setting the scenes, I'm looking at the built environment. I know some of my colleagues have looked into sustainability. I know Aaron, Professor Gillick have talked about it. John have talked about sustainability. I was saying to John this afternoon that it was great that you did it before me so that I can talk anything I want to say about you. So they have talked about sustainability, and everybody have looked at it. Deborah, Andrews have looked at sustainability. But I'm looking at sustainability in terms of project delivery. In terms of project delivery. If you look at the built environment is important to everything we do. We do where we live in, where we work, where we study, wherever we do is built environment. It contributes a lot into our economy. 10% of UK GDP, and then it employs 8% and 30% businesses come from there. It's actually a vast role in building a healthier and more sustainable project that we do. It's essential for the survival and livelihood of humanity. However, the built environment has got a lot of challenges. A lot of challenges. It's good to see how the challenges include low productivity. Some of my colleagues have mentioned it before. And then cost and time overrun, fragmented nature of the project. We have commercial risk, waste. We have suboptimal performances, epistemological issues as well. Because we don't know where we base, whether we are sciences or we are social sciences, wherever we base. If you come to built environment, a lot of times our modules, our courses are called BSc. And because it's called BSc, we know that our epistemology or our knowledge is actually sciences. But we also have social sciences as well in between it. So we are interjunction of those things. And because we are focused too much onto sciences, then we cannot identify ourselves and contribute more into what we do. So it becomes a problem for us. Where do we base on? So there's one project I will talk about it. This is where our Pro-VC, Professor Taradine, summarizes very nicely. She said one time to us that built environment is like a raw diamond, which needs cutting and polishing. It's true. We are like a raw diamond. We need cutting, we need polishing to make it better. And I think that is where we come in. That is where sustainability comes in. Let me hinge a little bit on the word sustainability. The word sustainability, which we all talk about it a lot, like I said, like it's a jargon, has been defined as the development that meets the needs of the present without compromising with the ability of the future generations. That's from the Brundtland report. But we could trace sustainability back into 1974, whilst the World Council of Churches actually got together. And the concept of sustainability started with poverty. So the problem wasn't about environment, it wasn't about economy, it wasn't about anything, it was about poverty. And then poverty that came about to determine what we call sustainable development. So the sustainable development came about, and now the sustainability have now gone a little bit further into different things. So we look into sustainability and it says that, okay, it's developing one thing over the other, yes, but what is it about? What is the thing that we are trying to sustain? And what does it mean in itself? When I'm trying to do a poll tonight, a lot of people would say sustainability in a different terms, because there's a different understanding of what the word sustainability means. I would say sustainability means ability to sustain, ability to maintain. That's all it means. So if you have an ability to maintain this, so going back to the courage, the golden courage, they have had the ability to maintain it, ability to keep it. So in that case, they are being sustainable. In that case, they are doing it well. So at that time, in cost-wise, they are doing is expensive. But looking at the whole life cycle of the thing, it's now productive. So it is the ability to sustain. If you look at the Sustainable Building Development Goals, there are 17 things that was talked about. And some of them, if you could group it, you are grouping it into two, which is your ability to maintain two things, lives and environment. I know other people who are economists in sustainability, sustainable economy will disagree with me. But it's two things we are trying to maintain. And no wonder that in the LSBU charter, if you look at it on our website, it says that it's maintaining society and environment. And that's fundamental. That's what we are trying to achieve. Sustainability, the concept of sustainability should not to attract anything, but maintain these two things. Okay, why sustainability is important to the built environment? That's the big question. If you look at the population, that we are increasing a lot, which is good. I have 3 kids, so it means that we are keep increasing. So we have population increase, endeavor growth, you see that, and then we have global environmental deterioration. It's a very big thing. With COVID-19, have taught us a lot of lessons. It's actually shown that healthy buildings is essential. How we build, how we operate building, how building perform. And we realize that sustainability is everyone's reality. It is important for us to look into sustainability and how does it meet the built environment stuff? How does it encompass what we do as a built environment? It's very important that we do. It contributes a lot into the GDP that we have. We have sustainable projects. So in project management, which I'm going to hinge into the things that I've tried to achieve, we have what we call the project phase. In the project phase, we have planning, development, design, construction, use, operation, maintenance, modification, and deconstruction. So it goes into the phases of construction. And then in the resources we use land, we use material, we use water, we use energy, and ecosystem. It means, if you look at it carefully, if you manage those resources properly, you are actually being sustainable. Because you are using water, you are using land, you are using water, you are using energy. So John was talking about the energy, Isa was talking about the energy, Aaron was talking about the energy. That's what built environment does. That's what we use. So if we do those management aspect of it properly, then we are being sustainable. Are you with me? If I lost you, let me know. So if you look at the built environment, then built environment can reduce so many things that we say. So we talk about green building can reduce energy efficiency by 24 to 25%. But if you look on the right side of the presentation, buildings are the one that we have the least cost. So it's the one that we don't do a lot with it. So carbon emissions, we could have 33 to 39%, water usage. So everything we could do, the built environment, if we do it effectively and efficiently, we could be sustainable. We could achieve the world's sustainable goals. The built environment have made a lot of progress in terms of sustainability. They've made a lot of progress. Now we've talked about sustainability goals. We've talked about other things. They've looked at the green design and material. So if you look at design, now design is very nice. We look at material, which is good. We've looked at sustainable communities, the Act 2007, which was amended in 2010, which helps reverse the trend of declining so-called ghost town. So building reforms and everything is happening. The building regs have changed, so there's a Part L now to input into sustainability. So there's a progress, actually. The Code of Sustainability Homes is still working as well. We have energy performance certificates, which they have produced. You have site management plan, which is there, BRIM, and other assessment method, which is good. The Building and Safety Act, what happened with the Greenfield Tower? Last year, they did the Building Safety Act. So we don't know how it will unfold, but it helps us to be sustainable. It helps us to have access to other stuff as well. The Climate Change Act as well, 2008, and the Net Zero Agenda. So it means that the built environment is doing a lot. But although I don't want to base on the fact that there's segregation between all these acts, which is one of the problems, I don't want to base on that problems. But I want to say that we need to look at sustainability beyond design, beyond material. Sustainability is not only about material. Sustainability is not about design alone. It's good to be sustainable using material. It's good to be sustainable using material, but it's beyond those things. So we have done that first phase. We need to move on to the second phase of sustainability, which is about delivery. How do we do it? Those of you who are civil engineers here will bear with me that you could design a building with, what's its name, cantilever building with iron rods in it, which means the iron rods should be at the top of it, isn't it? But the iron rod could be at the middle. If you put it in the middle, it's useless. It doesn't make sense. Though the iron rod is in it, but it's actually in the wrong place. It's like when you put in insulation, and then instead of you to leave cavity within the insulation and the wall, there's no cavity within the insulation and the wall. What happens? It's useless. The insulation is not functioning. So there are so many things we need to look beyond those things. There's, like I said, in terms of design, we have moved on. We have achieved so many things in terms of design. So I saw this photos, which I like so much. Though it's not related to building, but it has some concept in the things we do. A friend having a chat, charging electric car with fossil fuel. So the design is right, but the behavior is wrong. The design is right, it's electric car. He has bought an electric car, but he's charging with the fossil fuel. So the things that we want to go to achieve, we're not achieving it. The second picture shows that the lady wanted to fill electric car with what? With fuel, because he wants quick. He doesn't want time to waste. I want to fill the tank because she doesn't want to waste time. And that is what our behavior does in buildings. Buildings have improved, like I talked about it, but the change The behavior has not changed. The things we do have not changed. How we deliver, how we do things have not changed. The last picture, look at that strife between people, society, and technology. I was saying to Ralph, one of our QS colleagues today, that when I was younger, they said to me that QS, I'm a quant surveyor too, so QS is going to be, we're going to lose our job because of technology. It didn't take long, and then I got actually picked from my native country to the UK to work as work permit because it was skill shortage. And we're still surviving because there's a strife between the tension that there's technology and society is going to take our job, but it doesn't. It's complement each other. And now, if you are not very clear about attitude, it's happened with the eagle actually catching the drone because it will not let you function. Let's move on quickly to something else. Les Brown once said something which is very important and core to everything we do. He said, when your why is big enough, you will find your how. If you look at it last year, we have 40.3 degrees. Sustainability is real. There's something we have to be doing. We don't do it right. There's something we have to do. But our why is not big enough. If your why is big enough, then you will do something about it. If my why is big enough, we will find the how. I know we are making a progress, but we need to move beyond that. And that's the challenge I'm trying to put today. We have to make a progress. We have to move on to the next phase on achieving sustainability. If you look at it, we are saying that the built environment contributes to 48%. So if you look at the first picture, we have 48% actually dying. So if you don't do anything about it, the built environment could move it a little bit forward, could make it a bit greener if we tackle built environment. If you look in terms of building, if you see this on the right here, you could see a very nice building. But if you go deep into it, you will see that they are throwing money into the WC. Because the process is wrong. Because we are not delivering in the proper process. That is why if you look at Wembley, if you look at all this big project, it's delaying, it's cost overrun. Immediately there is waste. You are not achieving sustainability. The biggest enemy, if you don't take anything, take this one from me. The biggest enemy to sustainability is waste. That's the biggest enemy to sustainability. If you cut down waste, you are being sustainable. The first thing we have to be doing. Let's look at some myth and then realities. The focus of built environment in terms of sustainability achievement, we are focused too much onto carbon neutral. If you look at it, the Climate Act says that target by 2050, 100% reduction of greenhouse building. But there's so many things we have to be looking at. We have to be looking at the land, we have to look at poverty, we have to look at the waste we create, we have to look at how we spoil the land. But what will happen is that we will be achieving those targets, but we've been destroying the other parts of sustainability. What about education? What about water crisis that we have? What about those things? Why are we focusing on only carbon? There's other things we have to be doing. We have to be moved a little bit beyond those things as well. The second thing is that there's also the myth of perspective. Everybody has got their perspective. So the economists, which is the economically sustainable people, will say that, oh, sustainability is the development too cautious about future. So we have to keep digging. So they are sacrificing economic growth for the excess concern of depletion of natural resources. So in economic terms, the earth is a capital. So keep doing stuff. And then that's defining sustainability is as non-declining capital. But when you dig and dig and dig and dig, one day what will happen? You collapse the whole earth. So earth is not. If you look at the socialists, we'll be thinking that sustainability is more focused on economical and the very essence of environment. That's ignoring the social aspect. When the Sustainable Development Agenda actually happened in the World Council of Churches, there was a lady there, which is Gandhi, from India. He said, poverty is the worst thing to happen to human race. So on the socialist point of view, we need to look at social aspect, not the rest. And then he says that the very essence of sustainability is to maintain human and other species on the planet. But poverty, war, global warming, and health issues are happening to society and going to take off everything we do. So society is more important, but failed to be empowered. That's the main cause of degradation in the world. The last person, which is the environmentalist, talks about it and says that sustainability is the oxymoron as development seems to be entailed environmental degradation. Sustainable development is a contraction, and the term is used to cover continued destroying of the natural environment. So sustainability is seen in a different perspective. But what we need to look at is that we are looking at sustainability not from one person's perspective, not from an environmental perspective, not from a socialist perspective, not from an economics perspective, but from a holistic perspective. That's what we have to get into. That's the point that we need to get into. The second point that I want to talk about is about myth. It's about the factors. When the Brundtland Report came about, the Brundtland Report was actually done by what? Government and all these head of states and all these people. So they came about and say that it's not about environment and society alone, but it's also about economy. So there are three factors that everybody talks about it. They talk about economy, social, and a social environment. But one economist says something. It says that a sawmill is worthless without a forest. So it means that when you have a forest, then you should have a sawmill to cut down. So if you have one, it says that from that perspective, economy is a subsystem of human society, which is itself a subsystem of the biosphere, and gain in one sector is the loss of the other. It means that sustainability concept allows trade-off. It's like juggling 3 balls. You only catch one. I wish I have balls to juggle for you to say. You only catch one or leave the other. So it allows trade-off, which it doesn't help with what we want to achieve. In the same factor, in this era, Brundtland Report was done in the early 90s. And then we based on economic, social, and then environment. What about technology? The concept of technology has been taken out of the argument of sustainability. So we don't even talk about it. We don't even discuss. Whilst the Industry 4.0 talks about the change in technology. But we still say it's not important. It's embedded. If you look at other people's argument, they will say it's embedded into social technology, social environment. How is it embedded into anything? It's a factor on its own. And so technology plays a major role in the things we do. Heidegger talks about it in the early 20th century, about the essence of technology. I don't want to go so much technical, but I wish I could. But another thing that we are looking at is that though it has never been more technological, but we still use technology too much. So over-reliance of technology also causes problem. And that is what is causing a lot of e-waste. So we have a lot of e-waste. How many of you have seen 9,000 emails unread on your Yahoo? You can imagine. 4,000 on your Outlook. Your line manager will not be looking without reading. But nothing has happened to you. Your work is still going on. You're winning awards. They are telling you are doing a great job. You go to your one-on-one, like myself, I go one-on-one with my dean and says, you're doing a great job, but I have 3,000 emails. But the job is going on. Why? Because there are some of the things that we've actually put in there, it's copied in or something that you could delete. Nothing can happen. Why are these all emails doing? What has happened with that emails that you are storing? One of the research I'm doing with Professor Amin from NTU is about real costs about emails. How do we save that emails? How, if, you know the time we used to open emails, and that is e-waste. We are creating a lot of things into the building. So we say, so building data is important, but what data are we using? What is the data that is good for us to use? And how do we manage those data? There are systems somewhere that stores data, which is great. But remember, it's energy that we are wasting. So if you don't use them, don't waste it. And that's very important to our sustainability agenda. I know a lot of people have talked about this one, so I'll not spend so much time to talk about circular economy. But because our built environment, we are focused so much into a linear economy, then forgotten about the circular economy type of it. Roy and other people have looked at into circular economy, into how we could use circular economy to make sure the material we go, it doesn't go to waste, but actually we could recycle them and come back to use. I don't know whether I should hinge here a little bit to make sure that I disturb and provoke some people within our mess here. We know when we have sustainability, we have the government within 30 years ago started talking about insulation. So there's a retrofitting agenda which came about. So we did a lot of retrofitting into our work. So be the building services people who have done great work of research into those things. But one thing that is not forgotten is that when you put insulation, we know when you have a cavity wall, previously we have 102.5 wall, which is the external wall, then we have 70 cavity wall, then we have internal block, isn't it? Then the government came with a new building regs. Okay, let's make the cavity 100. So insulation now keep increasing. So when insulation increase, which means that thermal comfort is great because you are keeping energy inside the building. But one thing we've forgotten that energy, heat rises. And then when you put on your heater and heat rises, we become uncomfortable. And then what happened? We opened the windows and then the energy escaped. I know Isa will tell you that energy is transferred. But to me, I think energy is lost. Because it's gone to the atmosphere doing nothing. Does it make sense? It's gone into the atmosphere doing that. So what we need to do is that we need to look at not only the science of it, but we need to look at what? The thermal comfort. We need to look at occupant comfort. We need to look at air quality. How do we treat those things? We could not be sustainable by doing it only by science. We need to be sustainable by looking into other aspects of our work as well. It's beyond those designs. It's beyond the things we do. Now we have BREEAM. Fantastic. But what does BREEAM do? All that BREEAM does is that it looks into the design and classify design. Oh, you are good star. You are whatever. You are outstanding. But how is that delivered? Have they considered life cycle assessment, like the golden carriage I told you about? Have they looked at behavioral science, like the lady and the man actually using electric car and filling it with fossil fuel? Have they looked at behavioral science, how people behave, occupant comfort, air quality, building performance evaluation? How do we go back to the building to check that the building that we designed is performing what we said we want to do? Without that, we couldn't. Now, when we came into this room, the room was cold, wasn't it? But human mass, the room temperature have changed. How do we extract the air back and recycle the air? Anyway, we'll talk about another thing here. So we look into another aspect of it, which is the model itself. The HMSO 2005 says that the current sustainability model is unsustainable. We've not done anything about it. So what I have proposed previously in one of my research papers is that we have, all the argument I've made is that there are 4 aspects to sustainability, which we call the 4 poles. So we have society and technology. We have environment and economy. These are the poles of sustainability. These are the things that drive sustainability. So we have environment and society. But if you have the poles could be by itself being a pole. But what you have to be doing is that you have to manage the poles. The problem we have is that we have sustainability and then we don't do anything with it. So everybody manages differently. But there should be sustainability poles and then management intertwined. so that you could achieve sustainability in a real sense. So what I have done, or I developed, is that we have ethics, which is a very important part of sustainability. So in the management side, which is the middle, you need to have ethics. So when you have ethics, you have effectiveness, and then you have efficiency and economy. So you call the 4 E's. In every management, that is what you use to manage. So in management, if you are managing stuff, you are managing 4 E's. So anytime you say you are a manager, what are you trying to manage? You are managing efficiency. You are managing effectiveness. You are being ethical. And then you are managing cost. If you do these 4 things, in actual sense, you are being effective manager. You are being sustainable manager. So in terms of sustainability, you know the picture I showed you earlier on, the stripe between the eagle and the drone. So when you use society, if you use a lot of society here, so society and technology, there should be a balance between the use of it. If you have environment and economy, the more you try to get more economy and get more money, it means that you are actually affecting the environment. You will affect the environment. The more you dig, the more you go and dig into the environment, you are affecting the environment. So what you have to be doing is that you have to manage the environment and technology ethically. You have to manage environment and society effectively. Then you have to manage technology and economy efficiently. Then society, and here is economic, so that people will not be poor. Because the word economic is lack, isn't it? So it's a transfer of money from one point to another point. So if you manage it economically, it means that you bridge between lack. Poverty reduces. Education increases. Those things that comes in there. So I could say that in a layman term, sustainability is actually the meeting point between social, technological, environmental, and economic factors to maintain present and the future. Not for the future, but you are thinking about present again in the future. So it's not like the Brundtland report that says that you are without compromising the future. But you are thinking about, I have it now, but I'm thinking about the future. What will happen to the future? Because the more you dig, the more you put other people at risks. I'll move on quickly to talk about the myth of construction. Another one. This I've explained it already. So it focuses more onto the material. The word eco means environmental friendly, which is good, but we need to look at it in a holistic manner. You look at it in terms of delivery, performance, behavior science. Let's look at it in terms of construction. People always say that I'm doing a green build. Green build is good, but there's a difference between a green build and sustainable construction. Green build means that you have used environmental friendly materials to build. But what sustainable construction means that you have looked at the sustainability of the process. And that is where we have to be moving to. The last myth I want to talk about it is the myth of 1 to 99%. I was in the one meeting, roundtable meeting in Croydon. And in Croydon, when we sat down to discuss a few things about how we develop future of London and all these things. And all the people around the table were main contractors, consultants, the big boys and girls in society. I said to them, in actual sense, the SMEs are the people who do the work. If you make decisions for people people below you, they will not do it. They will not use it. Get them involved in it. And that is the only way you could achieve sustainability. In the built environment, we have 99% SMEs. Are they involved in the sustainability agenda? No. All the sustainability agenda that they are doing, they are looking into the large firms, the big firms. So they are doing it well. But the SMEs, they don't care. They are not into the agenda because you've not driven them into it. It's good that one of my PhD students, Gabriel, is actually doing one of the work about SMEs. Sustainability is doing about modular construction in SMEs. But that is sustainability in SMEs, looking specifically how do we tackle those problems. And it's fundamental to the things we do. Because they are 99%. If we be able to sell out to them, we could attract them more. A paper I did on the degree of accuracy on the sustainability shows that 19% drift. There's a 19% drift in cost. just because the SME is working for a main contractor. And the main contractor have decided not to pay them, decided not to manage the contract wrongly. But they've forgotten that somebody could work for SMEs and they were in the same classroom with you. So you could, now all of us here, I started my life on a site, then I became a consultant. When I became a consultant, what do? Now I became a contractor, which is a different thing. So if you're on the other side of things, you think the other person is not good enough. So it's 19% drift. But think about it, that if we are able to manage subcontractor effectively and efficiently, we would have saved 19% cost of a project. 19%, that's a lot. This is what I'm trying to do in the paper for you, so you could read about it. But look at the picture here. You have a forest. Even if you cut the tree and you don't transport it well, through this here, you're not being sustainable because you are polluting the world. But depending, when you look at the total area, where are you transporting it to? What is the transport you are using? What is the machine? What is the energy of the machine? What are the things to do? That makes you sustainable. The sustainability is not about using the tree. It's looking at the entire process of being sustainable. There are some of the samples of PhD studies that have worked within the area of sustainability. There's some of them. I'll quickly talk about one research project. In construction, there are 3 elements that we try to look at it very carefully. So one of them is concrete, timber, and then steel. It has always been a problem that which one is sustainable? Which one is sustainable? Which of them that we looked at to be sustainable? So my area was not to look at the material, whether they are sustainable material or they are what. That's not what I did. My area was looking at the performance of the framework that they did. That's the cost performance, and then the cost in itself, how cost achieved. So that's the things I did. So I did first critical analysis of what is happening. So if you look at the green ones that I showed in green, actually shows the strength of every material. So steel, for example, is very strong in everything, but it has a problem of corrosion. If you look at timber, lowest CO2 cost, but timber takes 15 to 20 years to use. So look at the population growth that we have, and then you want to use timber, that will be hard. That will be hard for you to wait 15 to 20 years to use timber. And then the third thing is concrete, which is easily to get, but however, it takes 28 days to cure. So it also takes time. I looked at the performance benefit. So in the performance benefit, I looked at areas like acoustics insulation, fire protection, thermal insulation, insurances, vibration performance, energy efficiency, maintenance, and robustness. So if you look at it, for example, insurance, if you have a concrete frame building, the insurance is low. Maybe it's something that some of you have not looked at. If you looked at insurance for a steel frame, it's medium. If you look at timber frame building, it's high. There are so many things we could look into that I just checked. I compared 2 factors because concrete and steel become very close in terms of the things we do. So if you look at construction time, cost, and sustainability, concrete can be crushed to 100% recycled, but you cannot maybe use it for the same recycle. And then steel is 100% recycled. And actually, in the UK, 90% of the steel we use are recycled. So which in terms of sustainability alone, in terms that steel is more good. In terms of cost, it's perceived that concrete is cheaper, and then steel is a bit expensive. In terms of delivery, concrete will always take 28 days, whilst at least, or minimum, then while steel is faster. So there's strength in there. Let me check. Then what I did, I went further, and then we had David Logman, which is a consultancy, to design a same structure. So what we wanted to do is that design without thinking about anything. They designed a structure about steel and concrete frame. So they did a design. Option 1 was the pretension flat slab, and then we have the flat slab, then we have institute and hollow flat slab, and then the steel has got composite and some deck as well. Then what I did is I did a cost analysis for all of them. And then the average cost of concrete is cheaper than the average cost of steel in every way. So if you look at the steels are far expensive than the cost, the concrete. I went further to look at the schools. We did other projects. It's not only schools. We did schools, we did hospital, we did other things. So I looked at the schools because I'm presenting here, so I picked only the schools one. So if you look at the schools again, the school average cost per meter square for a school building was cheaper as compared to a steel frame. Then I decided that, okay, maybe the design might not be correct. Argument. So people might say that you use only one aspect of design. So now let me look into other aspects. So I go into BCIS. So BCIS, I did cost analysis of BCIS. So what I did was that I transferred the idea from where we have and then benchmark it into another place by using the tender price index and other location factors and other analysis to get into there. So what I did is that I did timber frame from 2015 upwards. So timber frame came about average cost of the adjustment cost was 2,375. The steel frame got 2,900 and the concrete used 2,003, which shows that the timber was far cheaper also with the BCIS. So I'm looking in terms of cost and in terms of all the analysis I've provided, which means that timber, concrete will provide a very cheap cost for you. And if you look at it from 2015 to date, we've had a lot of timber concrete frame than any of them. Then the summary, I produced it down here. You could see that timber frame concrete is 30% down. So the question is that concrete could pollute. Yes, because you could get cement and other things that people are researching into. But if you look at it in terms of cost alone, is it cheaper? Yes, it is. So how do you measure those things? You need to look at it holistically. What do I need to do? So it is not about only the cost aspect I'm looking at. Look at the building performance as well. Look at acoustics as well. Because there's some of them which has inherent property of acoustics in itself. Then there is a myth of theory. Koskala says something, those of you who know Koskala says something, that project management as taught by professional society and applied in the current practice must be reformed because it is inadequate today and its performance will continue to decline. So it means that what we are doing now, the basis of our concept of project management is absolute. I'm sorry to say. Why? Because it's based on scientific management. It was developed in the early 20th century. Fordism, those of you who done. So the main focus of scientific management, which is actually the management that we use as well. Have you heard about people saying that boss and leaders? Have you heard about this before? So the boss aspect is scientific management. Boss in itself is not a wrong thing, but they are looking at scientific management, which is boss, which means that it's what? Autocratic leader. I don't want to talk about leadership. Let me talk about this one here. It's actually focused on tax management. So tax management means that it's transformational. What you put in, you get out. What you put in, you get out. And what we say is that it is not, I'm not saying that it's wrong, but what I say is that it's limited. The theory that we have is limited. It doesn't perform the theories that we are looking for. So there was an argument into another word where we call complexity theory. So complexity theory says that social actors, we all work together and then we can make a discussion. So we talk about collaborative planning, collaborative project delivery, which Agile came about. So Agile project management, those of you who do project management, it says that shoot the bullet and redirect it. It is good, but it's also used for a smaller project where you could actually have everybody on board. But if it's a very large and complex project, then it's also limited. So what do we need to do? What we need to do is that we need to combine sustainable scientific management theory and then complexity theory together. And then we have something we call transformation flow and value, where value in itself means sustainable value. Sustainable value is not only the value that you get out of the project, but it's considered to be the perceived value of the client, is the social environmental value, which is the people, and the delivery. So it means that you create value through the production, which is the delivery side of it, and you create value because it's perceived, it's designed. So the design becomes value, and then production value you get out of it. Then you get local, and which is the social environmental value as well. in that case, you're achieving value. That is why in one of the talks I came about, they said that people move from one place to another place and they don't do well. It's the same organization because they've transferred values, they've changed values, which doesn't work. But you need to have the social, environmental value because things that people value in another place is different from the things that we value in our place as well. We have management problems in itself as well, but I'm not going to talk about the myth of it. I'm going to talk about what management is. Anytime we have management, people say, oh, management is about organization. Management is about doing stuff, doing this, doing that. Management have got 3 things, and get it right. You could take this one. 3. And 3 is that every management needs to have planning, monitoring and control, and then evaluation. And it's a circular thing. People in the PMI book, project management people will say that management goes into planning this, and close. When you close, what do you do with it? You don't have lessons learned. So a management process is a circular thing. So every management, let's say energy. So when you have energy and there's energy management, it means you need to do what? Energy planning, energy monitoring and control, and energy what? Evaluation. Tell me any management you want to do. These 3 things are fundamental of the things we do. And why we are failing is that our management principles and our management processes are lacking. So we are not achieving what we are supposed to achieve. And this links us into the last thing that I want to talk about before I move into delivery is about time, cost, quality. Time, cost, quality has been the measures that we use to measure everybody. So have you been TQC? That's the thing. But it's all to do with poor delivery. It is not for built environment, it's not for construction. In construction, there are 2 things. Time, cost, quality in itself is risks. So we need to look at what we call flows in the risks. So we have complexity. So if you can identify a project, the complexity of a project, then you could identify the risks of it. Then you could actually make a decision what type of methods you are going to apply into it. But time, cost, quality in itself is limited. It doesn't solve our problems. So there are complexity things that we call flows. I've listed below it in it. And then, because it all comes from the same area of scientific management, Henry Ford, which actually did those things, in the early 1909, Henry Gantt actually came also to develop what we call Gantt charts. That is why if you ask anybody who is a project manager, they will say that, are you a scheduler? Or do you do Gantt chart? Because they think that that's what we do. But what happened is that it's limited, like I said to you. They think that the more people you put in, the more you get out of it. So what happened is that, let's say we want to paint this whole place. So when you want to paint the whole place, you put a lot of people in the room to paint, isn't it? But if you put 5, they will use 1 day. If you put 10, they will use 2 days. What about if you put 20? They will be in each other way, which means that effort-driven is not applicable, which causes waste, low productivity, poor risks, and all those things that I've talked about it already, which does not make projects sustainable, and it causes more problem onto it. These are some of the papers that I've worked on in it, which you could look at. In terms of project failure, a lot of projects are failing because they are not achieving what is supposed to be achieving. Okay, so you move on to the last innovative aspect of it. What do we do? That's the question that everybody will be asking. What do we do? You talked about the myth, you talked about everything. What do we do? We need to change the ways we deliver projects. We need to change how we deliver projects. And how do we deliver projects? The scientific management project, which is based on scheduling, is not effective enough. So what do we need to do? We need to change how we deliver by using what we call holistic aspect of it, which combines everything we deliver. It combines the transformation, the flow, and the value you create. So we have all the values here, which goes through it, and then we have the transformation that goes on it. So in that case, every task that you have, you need to have, or every deliverable you have, you need to have the transformation and flow going through as well, which helps you to achieve a sustainable project. And this is how it matches about, which I've told you about how 4E's works in terms of achieving sustainability agenda. So when you talk about sustainable project, what do you want to achieve? You want to achieve sustainable, efficient building. You want to achieve sustainable, and it's not only using technology, but actually making good use of natural resources as well. Making sure you use environmental friendly material to reduce carbon. I'm not saying it's not good, but we need to make sure we move it further. Consume less energy over the life cycle, not only one cycle, but and integrate the natural resources, ethically and economically deliver, use and maintain. So you need to check the building performance that you have, and then use enhanced living. So anytime we build, we need to enhance living or working in that environment. Going forward, I'm trying to look into other areas as well of what I do. So I'm looking at sustainable delivery and sustainable and innovative delivery system. So there are so many things we could talk about. AI now becomes a bigger thing. But the industry 5.0 says that they are bringing society back into it. And like I said in the 4E4 polls, sustainability in the society is still part of the things we deliver. Anyway, so we try to look into those areas as well, because the AI could not think. It doesn't have emotions, does it? It can do so many things, but there's no emotion in it. So there are things that we could use AI to do it. I'm looking into smart contract and blockchain areas. We are looking at sustainable construction and automation. So automation is good in as well as we're looking at holistic aspects and building performance or performance management, how we look at those areas. There are PhD students that I think they've mentioned some of them that I'm working with. I'll be speaking on one of the built environment conference very soon on 23rd. I'm not advertising for them. Very soon, which has got over 18,000 people that are coming up. That we're going to look into how sustainability, how properties and things are done. One of the things I'll let you go with it is that in terms of sustainability, when you want to dig, we need to dig responsibly. We have to do something. We have to create. We have to construct. Be responsible, because your action today will affect others. And another thing, never start a project unless all the resources are available, because you will be short of them. Make sure the tax and the flows are ready before you start. Do not reduce resources as needed. What will you take home tonight? What will you take home tonight? Sustainability is our reality. We must take responsibility of it. When our why is big enough, we'll find a how. Holistic delivery and behavioral science is needed in the things we do. We need to check. We need to look at the things we do. Use 4 E's in everything we do, in your life, in a thing. And like I said, the biggest threat to the things we do is actually waste. It doesn't matter waste to what. I keep saying to my family that when you waste water, you are doing what? You are killing the planet. You waste anything you waste, you are killing the planet. So it doesn't matter. It's about society. It's about our lives. It's about things. That is why we always say that it's life. Life in itself is a project. Work on it. You could work on yours. I could work on mine. That is the only way we could achieve sustainability. Thank you.